Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. So, All In sells out in under 30 minutes. Is this going to be that big of a deal now since Meltzer said that the Young Bucks and Cody couldn't do it? What are your thoughts on that, Aaron?
I think it is. And it wasn't so much that he said that they couldn't do it. He said that he did not see any other promotion other than WWE being able to do that. No major promotion. And we obviously have this ragtag group of people with Cody and the Young Bucks and a few others being able to do that. And I think that speaks to the volume of their following, but also what indie wrestling is right now as a whole. And Doug, I know you're a huge fan. You wanted to go to this event. Unfortunately, I mean, it was 29 minutes and some odd seconds, you were unable to get tickets. What are you still thinking about going to this?
Some I still definitely want to go to, and so I will be doing all the secondhand sites to see what I can find for price versus where my seat location is, because I think that just the rumors that have been around this pay-per-view in general, when Daniel Bryan was rumored to be possibly free and clear of his WWE contract and going there, I don't think that's going to happen now. But also it being in Chicago, the home of CM Punk, he was in backstage of the press conference for it. He's going to be in Chicago with 1 Hour Tees doing a promotion and signing all weekend during up there. I do believe they're one of the sponsors. So it's more than likely he's going to be there and a part of the show in some way, if not actually on the card.
I think it's more of a statement on the health of wrestling as a whole. Like, people are interested in not just the WWE anymore. People are interested in seeing guys like Okada. I think Rey Mysterio's all in. People are interested in the Young Bucks. People are interested in Omega. So it's a good thing. Does this mean that there's a clear challenger to the WWE like WCW? Absolutely not. Like, let's not get silly. This is not proof that the WWE is falling. I mean, their Fox Sports deal will tell you they're doing just fine. But there's room out there for more than one company, and I think it's fantastic. Obviously, if the Holy Grail comes true and Punk comes back, fantastic. If he doesn't, still will be a great show. I'm glad it sold out. I'm glad Meltzer walked back his statements and basically said, this is great. Congratulations. I think it proves something about Cody Rhodes being more of a draw than maybe WWE and guys like Meltzer gave him credit for. But really, at the end of the day, I think if you're a fan of professional wrestling, you should be happy about this. Like, I don't think there should be any bitterness. I don't even think if you're WWE, you should be bitter about this, because the more people that are interested in wrestling, that's more eyes that you can get to come watch your product. So it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, and I think the CM Punk thing is the big thing, because a lot of people want to see him come back. Whether or not he actually does come back, this would be very interesting, especially if he loses his UFC fight, or when he does lose his UFC fight. It would be really cool to see him come back and continue what he started a while ago and be a wrestler. And he could actually be the head of any type of, if they decided to do Ring of Honor and want to make him even bigger than what they are, he has the star power to do it. It's just going to be interesting to see if this would translate into other areas of the country, or if it would just be like a Midwest or even like a New York or Philadelphia thing. But I'm happy for the Young Bucks and Cody for doing this. This is a great thing for wrestling in general. The other thing, one thing I don't think is great, is that the WWE pay-per-views are now going to be moving to not just 3 hours, but they're going to be moving to 4 hours plus an hour pre-show, maybe even a 2 hour pre-show for all we know. I mean, Roger, do you think this is just too much wrestling, though, just to have it all in one sitting, to sit down for 5 to 6 hours to watch a show?
If you can't do a good show for 3 hours on Monday Night Raw, and you can't do a good show for whatever that abomination that is Backlash was, where if you essentially missed the first match of the night, you watched one of the worst pay-per-views since December to Dismember. Like, I mean, there was nothing good. And that is, including guys like Samoa Joe on the card, Daniel Bryan on the card. You had one good match. That I don't know why you would think, hey, let's give them more bad product. Like, and we harp on this topic every time we talk about this. If you look at NXT, That's a good show. If you look at SmackDown, that's a good show. 3 hours and up, that needs to be a mega event. That's a once or twice a year type thing. And I'm sorry, with the except Money in the Bank may be fine because you have the double ladder matches and you have some build up title matches. Do I care about whatever the July pay-per-view is being 4 hours? No, I don't. Or 5 hours, including the pre-show. It's too much. And until they learn that less is more, it's going to continue to be boring. It's going to continue to be too many of the same matches. People are going to start walking out in the main event over and over again because it's predictable. It's not good television. They're hurting their own. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They got to eventually learn this just doesn't work.
I'm curious about it just because of the fact that when I was looking into tickets to go to Money in the Bank, they jacked up the prices from $300 to $400 for the floor seats that I normally get. At that time, I did not know that it was going to be possibly a 4-hour show. That makes a little bit more sense now that if you do average that 3 hours, $100 per hour for that seat. But not knowing what the card is going to be, that's just way too much money. And they jacked up all the prices to all the seats, and it seemed overdone. But I just have to echo everybody else's thoughts that there's just too much. If you want to, especially if you're the way they're doing it, Backlash, you had a world title on the line, and it wasn't your main event. This would make sense and be a lot better for Brock Lesnar to be off show if your main event still is the world title, but it's not, and it absolutely demeans the title that AJ Styles has, in my own opinion. And it just I can't understand what their thinking process is on this. It's just ridiculous. I'm kind of glad so that more people can be on the pay-per-view, but at the same time, if you're going to produce matches like a Backlash, no thank you. That's about it, because that was horrible. Now Backlash, I think, also had the issue of the Great American or all Great Royal Rumble, the Greatest Royal Rumble, and the switch. So they had people that were trying to feud that were then switched to other shows and everything like that. So that was just a hogwash of a pay-per-view. I'd like to see where they go from here, but at the same time, I could see them still doing switches with, well, this Raw star is going to fight this SmackDown star, and it's just going to be bad because all they're going to be doing is talking that one match at their own shows and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Less is more. 4 hours should be for major shows, Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam. I'm cool with WrestleMania be 5 hours with no pre-show, because when it's not an actual pre-show, when you have matches on there that are on the network that you can view, that is not a pre-show. That is part of the show. I don't care what you say. It is part of the show. So, 4 or 5 hours long, I think it's going to be too much. But I think one of the other biggest news, though, that happened was that WWE stock is through the roof. So it went up all the way up to $58. It's actually hovering around there at the time of this recording. I very well known. I bought 10 shares way back when I put my money into an IRA account, and I bought them at around $10. So I'm riding high right now on that additional money. But anyway, $58. This is part of the deal that they have with USA and part of the deal they have with SmackDown potentially going to Fox. Andy, is this big news for wrestling?
It's big news for wrestling because the rumors are right now is that Raw is going to be on Monday nights and SmackDown is going to be on Friday nights, but they want both shows to be 3 hours, which, of course, as we know, is too much. But also Fox, with Fox, it's interesting because if they run the 8 to 10 Eastern time zone slot, they have their news on at 10 o'clock opposed to 11 o'clock like everywhere else. That's going to be a weird part because are they going to bump the news then, or are they going to have SmackDown on an hour earlier? That's what I'm curious about. But I think that what will end up happening, in all seriousness, I think that they're going to have SmackDown be 2 hours. And I believe that Fox will some way, somehow do specials for WWE as well. But I think them going 3 hours is a mistake. But the thing is, though, it makes wrestling look good because it's going to be USA for Raw, and then you're going to have Fox for SmackDown, so it's going to be brands competing over ratings, which will be fun because if the blue brand beats the red brand, you know that they're going to talk about it. And also, the wrestlers' schedules could be lighter because they could do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday because WWE doesn't need that much money. So they can only work 3 days a week, which would be great. People will be fresher, and I think that'll be a positive note, especially for the stars. They're out there 4 to 5 days out of the week. Why not cut it and just have it 3? That would be great for them. But anyways, their stock being that high, it's a really cool thing, and everyone was talking about it recently. I think it was Morgan Stanley said buy was the big thing. Like you need to buy this stock now because it's going to continue to rise. So kudos.
And here I thought they were NSYNC fans.
I know, exactly.
So Roger, let me ask you this to kind of pivot off of that point with the stock being so high, part of it being the Fox deal. SmackDown going to Fox, Raw being on USA, those are two very competing networks because that's NBC and that's Fox. Those are two different networks. Is there going to be real competition then? Are we going to see a real separation, or are we going to see potential vying for talent where, let's say, Fox says, hey, we really want Roman Reigns, and then NBC is saying the exact same thing? Are we going to see that, do you think?
I don't think that, because I think, this isn't being sold to you as, hey, you get X player, you get the WWE, right? The entire philosophy has always been no one person is bigger than the brand. So, it's never been sold as, you can go back to the days of SmackDown being on UPN and Raw being on TNN. Those were separate networks. It wasn't, oh, hey, TNN gets to request Stone Cold and UPN gets The Rock. It's you get the WWE brand. And if we decide what goes on the blue brand, we decide what goes on the red band. They're not selling it as, oh, you get Roman, oh, you get AJ. Now, obviously, they're not going to stack every single superstar on Raw or stack every single superstar on SmackDown. I think what you're going to see, though, is that you may see a more true separation. If something works on the blue brand, they may not just switch it over to try to shake things up again. Fox may say, hey, this is working, and this is giving us consistent ratings. Don't move a guy like AJ Styles. Don't move a Daniel Bryan. Don't change anything. This show is working. If they go to 3 hours, I think that's a big mistake. I understand why we want more of a good thing. Andy has floated the idea of expanding NXT, and we've always said there's too much of a good thing. Keep doing a good quality 2-hour show like they did this past Tuesday. That was another fantastic episode of SmackDown Live. If you keep churning that out week after week, if that's what you can show Fox for the next year and a half, you have a fine show. My only concern is, what Fox is really good at doing? Canceling good shows. So if there's something that I would be worried about, it is, this is a really entertaining show that people like. Ooh. Yeah, they got to cancel it because there's got to be another Seth MacFarlane animated show here coming up shortly. So,
are you bitter about Lucifer or Last Man on Earth?
I'm going to be honest. I'm bitter from Firefly. Like, I have not let that go, and it's been 18 years. My wife is also bitter about Lucifer, so we're both in agreement on that one. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Almost Human. I could go on a list of rants of why I'm mad with the shows Fox cancel. I look at a show as once Fox cancels it, I start watching it because I know it's probably good. But to go back to that, I think this is another thing that is, again, good for wrestling. If you have two distinct brands, and I think this is what needs to happen, is that I think Vince needs to maybe step back from SmackDown and let somebody else run it. Because what they're doing now works. They've split the brands. They've got two distinct flavors. The one thing that I am curious about is that this is due to kick off in fall of 2019. Fox has always had a deal, to my knowledge, with the Pac-12, that is Pac-12 After Dark, which was showing Friday night college games of the Pac-12. So is that getting kicked to Fox Sports? Was that all? I mean, is it FS1? Are they not showing that anymore? And then what happens when things like the US Open happen? What happens when the World Series happens? There are going to be sporting events that show on a Friday. Does SmackDown get bumped? Does it move to FX or Fox Sports 1? What happens, right? If it's, Game 7 of the World Series, you're not bumping that coverage.
That's actually a good point. Did they actually say it's going to be on Fox, though? Or did they say that Fox is getting it?
They said it, from what I understood, they said it is on Fox, not Fox Sports 1, not FX. It is on Fox. It's going to be on, Q13 if you live in Washington. It is going to be on, which would be the first time it's on network television since the Saturday Night Main Event days. It was a long time ago, and that's, one of the reasons, in my opinion, that this deal was so coveted and why WWE stock is so high is that there are very few things that make people sit in front of a television and watch. And live events are really it. Everything else I can DVR or watch on Hulu or watch on Netflix or whatever service you subscribe to. But I want to watch a football game live. I want to watch a basketball game live. I want to watch wrestling for the most part live because it's the moments that you hear about and you talk about. And once they get spoiled, it's not the same. When we saw Daniel Bryan get announced that he was cleared, all of us were tuned in to SmackDown that night to see what he was going to say. Hands down, we were glued in front of our television. And those are the kind of moments that live TV produces that really outside of, your few HBO shows, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, and its prime, things like that, you just don't have the things that can draw people to seats. And this is why WWE, why they're probably very, buy, because with the exception of sports and NFL and NBA, how many things really make people sit in front of a television screen and say, I need to sit down and watch this at 8 o'clock? It's not many.
Very happy for WWE. I was under the impression that this was going to Fox Sports, not Fox. But if it goes to Fox, that's amazing that it'll be canceled in probably, 2 years or something like that, just like Ryder said. I'll join the bandwagon of I'm so terrified of what they do on Fox because of the Firefly and Lucifer and Brooklyn Nine-Nine and all the other shows that they've canceled prematurely. But very, very excited if it is going to Fox and everything like that. You're going to get more of a nationwide and a bigger broadcast and bigger numbers, I think, that way. And I think that's going to help SmackDown in the aspect of I don't think you can treat it as a B show. I think you got to bring it up to both shows are going to be your A shows. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know if it'll be a competition between them, but I think it'll have to elevate the product in overall. So good for WWE, good for their stock, and I think overall good for wrestling.
Yeah, I agree, and good for Aaron because he's made himself $400 off those
$400 sitting
nice.
pretty.
So one final note about this Fox deal, and I was just looking up the numbers. The rumor, and I don't know if this is obviously true and it's not confirmed, is 5 years, $1 billion. That is a massive influx of cash. That is, you're talking about, you combine this plus whatever they're getting allegedly from the Saudi Arabian prince to bring over the greatest Royal Rumble for the next 10 years. And Vince McMahon probably has Shane McMahon's theme on loop just all around the house. He is doing the Shane O'Mac dance all night long because money's coming in.
The one thing that Meltzer said, he said that they would not have to do any house shows because they would be so cash heavy at this point, just because of those both deals. And that's not surprising, but they will still do house shows, but I believe that they'll cut back, and I think they'll go to 3. 3 shows, 2 house shows a week, but I think 2 for SmackDown, 2 for Raw. So, but anyways, let's just talk about the Universal title picture. So, Brock is about to surpass CM Punk in days, but CM Punk defended his title 10 times more than Brock has during that time. Aaron, does this make Brock a better champion, or is he just there?
He's just there. I'm okay with having the special attraction. I think it's totally okay to have somebody there only at specific times, only for the big pay-per-views. I'm okay with that part, but that champion, then they aren't going to be put on the same pedestal as somebody else. So, for example, CM Punk most likely, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I think CM Punk probably defended the title the most out of any champion, any single reign champion in WWE history. And I'm even saying with Bruno, because the thing with Bruno is that he defended the title maybe once a month, maybe. And yeah, over 7 years, 7 times 12. Yeah, you're looking at, 90 some odd title defenses, right? CM Punk defended the title every single week. I mean, he literally did. So CM Punk probably had, if we give Bruno the benefit of the doubt, and that's at 90, CM Punk would have defended the title 60 to 70 times. So maybe Bruno might be the only person that surpassed him. Getting off track a little. I don't like Brock Lesnar with the title anymore. I think that he needs to lose the title. Personally, I think he should have lost the title shortly after he won it and then won it back. I think it would have been kind of a cool story to have him lose the title to Braun or even Joe, and then have him win the title back. But it was kind of cemented that he was going to have to lose it to Roman. And now we don't know what's going to happen. And I kind of feel at a loss here because I don't know who's going to take the title off of Brock Lesnar. I literally have no idea. And I don't, other than Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is the only credible person, but they've already had a one-on-one match. Are they going to do it again? Because their first one was a stinker. So are they going to do that at SummerSlam when he's going to defend the title? So he's going to be a 600-day champion? I don't know. I mean, I'm at a loss here. Honestly, I really am. So, Doug, I don't know. Do you have anybody in mind who could take the title off of him?
I think it's going to have to come down to a Money in the Bank cash-in. Whoever it is that wins Money in the Bank is going to be the only person or the next person to beat him, whether it be if it is Braun or Joe or if you really look at it, almost anybody on that list has a legitimate chance of beating Brock Lesnar after taking a other match beat down. Like if he was to fight Braun Strowman and then you have The Miz cash in, I would love to see it, but we'll see. I agree with Aaron in Brock's title run is not the greatest, and I'm tired of it now too. But knowing that we're going to have to wait until however long to do it, kind of takes away the fun of the Money in the Bank, I think, because I always loved it when it could be a weekly thing. So if they want to do a weekly thing, they're going to have to give it to SmackDown. If they want to just do it sporadically, where it's almost like a given any time that Brock wrestles that there's going to be a cash-in, then we'll see it on Raw. But it'll be interesting. And I really do think the next person to be champion will probably be a Money in the Bank cash-in.
The Brock Lesnar title reign started off strong. Like they really did a good job at the beginning of the proper mix of special attraction, but it still being a focus of the show. It was a better than anticipated match between him and Goldberg. And then you immediately went into essentially a feud. They had a 5-way match, I want to say at Extreme Rules, where all of them were challenging for the number 1 contendership. It was a solid main event. And then you had a great feud with Joe. And then you had like a follow-up where Joe and Roman and Braun all felt like they deserved a shot at the championship. And then they had a fantastic match at SummerSlam. And then it just fell off a cliff. Like, I don't know what happened between SummerSlam and WrestleMania, but it's like they saw what worked and goes, okay, let's do the exact opposite now. He had a terrible feud with Braun. He had a very terrible match with Braun. He had a great match with AJ Styles after they pivoted away from he who never should be named as WWE champion, because that would have been one of the worst matches I've ever seen. They had a pointless title match at the Royal Rumble that everyone had basically a 0% chance and wasted Braun Strowman, who should have been dominant in the Rumble. And then you had a very bad match with Roman Reigns at 34, which did no one any favors other than Brock Lesnar with a shocking retain to walk out as champion. But it was like one of those moments that didn't shock the crowd so much as it made the crowd kind of just flat. Like me and Aaron's reaction was like, huh? That was weird. And then you had the Rumble, which was a terrible match, which was Finisher's Fest and a spear that didn't make any sense because Brock Lesnar didn't even touch the ground. So, just his title reign from SummerSlam to now has been so bad that it's like, I don't know. I just don't care. And I think that's sad that you've taken something that was, as Paul Heyman would say, can't miss or must watch to it was obvious that it was Roman Reigns, and I get why maybe they pivoted, but they should have had a better plan in mind. There should have been number 1 contender matches every single pay-per-view that Brock wasn't on. Why was Roman versus Joe just a random match for nothing? You could have had a backup plan that said if Roman doesn't win the championship, it's a 6-way championship number 1 contender scramble match. And then you throw guys who didn't do anything at the pay-per-view like Finn Balor into this match so they can all compete, and then the winner faces Brock. Instead, he's not even competing at Money in the Bank, so he's going to beat Punk by simply just not showing up. Like, you should not go from the greatest Royal Rumble is that April? To SummerSlam not defending your championship. That is stupid. Like that is such an artificially inflated title reign for someone who doesn't need it. Brock Lesnar is in kayfabe your strongest wrestler. He could be defending the title every month or every other month and be blowing through people. Like, he's booked well. It's just they just don't use him properly. And you've kept your title off the show to the point where does Brock have an issue with anyone at this point right now? Like, is there a single Brock Lesnar feud other than Roman Reigns whining at management? Like, he's so disconnected from the roster. He feels the same way that 205 Live feels to me. It's like he's on his own show. And occasionally he shows up to do whatever he wants. And then he goes away and everyone's just like, oh, well, Brock left. Bye. Like, to me, Money in the Bank has no business being on Raw, to Doug's point, because what are you going to cash in on? No one? Can you cash in on empty champion? Can you pin vacant? Because if you can't, like, I remember when Seth Rollins had it before 31 and he could never cash in. Like, he could cash in 4 times in the time that Brock was champ. It's like SmackDown, at least you have the threat of being able to cash in every week. This was done poorly. The idea, I understood it, and I hate to say it, they should have probably just done the coronation. They probably should have just gotten it over with Roman, let him win the match. He didn't need to kick out of 6 F5s. He could have kicked out of 1. It would have been the big shocking moment. He comes back and he rallies and he wins. Instead, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. You should have never done Brock Braun at No Mercy. That was a mistake. You should have never put Braun in that triple threat match at the Rumble. That was a mistake. So you blew what should have been a mega match because Brock versus Braun for the first time at SummerSlam would have been really cool to see. I would have thought maybe Bobby Lashley, but apparently he's got some sister issues, so I don't really know if he's being built up to face a Brock Lesnar. Like, I just don't know. I don't think there's anyone right now on the roster who should be facing Brock Lesnar.
Well, maybe Ellsworth will come back and take care of business. You never know. But let's, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much what we have to say about Brock Lesnar. He's going to surpass, unfortunately, Punk, but oh well. So let's talk about the WWE title. AJ versus Nakamura. I think they're on number 4 right now. Roger, do you think that this is too much with Nakamura versus Styles? Because we wanted to see it for so long and we finally got it. But at what point do we have to say enough's enough?
I think we said it at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and we said it at Backlash. I mean, the sad part about this, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, when we were talking about this, the statement was their best match is not going to be on pay-per-view. We said their best match was going to be on SmackDown. And lo and behold, their best match of the series, in my opinion, was on SmackDown. It's the only one that had a clean and decisive finish outside of WrestleMania, but that was their best match. And now you've taken what should have been a dream feud and turned it into, I'm just happy it's almost done. I think their last man standing match should be good, but I'll say this. I thought the WrestleMania match was going to be really good. I thought their Greatest Royal Rumble match could be really good. I thought their Backlash match was going to be really good. I've been disappointed 3 times, and I've been okay 1 time. I kind of like Aaron said, I'm pot committed with saying that I guess I believe this match is going to be good, but you can only cry wolf so many times before I just kind of give up and go, meh, I'm ready to move on. I kind of like AJ Kevin Owens. It should have been better. This should have been a fantastic money-making, wow, this is one of the greatest feuds we ever see of all time. Instead, this became a comedy feud about nut shots.
That's true. It's all about the lower region. And I guess that's the sad part. It's not like we're playing No Mercy and your Xbox. But yeah, and it's really nice though that we'll see it finally end at Money in the Bank. And Doug,
maybe.
Doug, do you think that this would actually make you want to see Money in the Bank even more in person if you knew that this is going to end at there?
If it was a pillow fight, I would. And I say, why not? You know what? If the women can have a pillow fight, why can't we have the first ever men's pillow fight? But if you're going to do a last man standing, I want to refresh myself on the rules of a last man standing. Wouldn't both of them lost last time too because no one answered the 10 count? So why are we doing a last man standing when neither man could stand last time? It doesn't make sense to me.
I would be okay with a Hell in the Cell in this case.
This is where I won't even do Hell in a Cell. Let's do Falls Count Anywhere. That way there has to be a fall.
Iron Man, so that every time they do a low blow, it's a disqualification.
Right. Let's do. I mean, there were so many other matches in your repertoire that you could do that just make more sense than a last man standing match. I don't know. I'll tell you what, it's not going to be the main event.
Of course not.
No, it's got to be Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. We know that.
I know. I was going to go into that, but I didn't want to rant so early in the in the podcast. So I'll save that little rant for later. But I'm tired of this feud, and it hurts me to say that because this was something I was such looking forward to is AJ versus Nakamura. When I saw them fighting at last Money in the Bank, and they moved that ladder to the hype, everything was there. They had their moment. It was wonderful. So then when we actually get to see the match, it's all right. And then you go with the ball shot, which I was like, oh, cool. They're going to give Nakamura a character, kind of driven thing. And then it's just going to be continuous nut shot after nut shot after nut shot. And I mean, thank God AJ, he's had his kids. He's sterile now.
I think, Doug, Doug, I was going to say to your point, I think it's the subtlety, that WWE is not going with. Having 4 matches in the span of, 6 weeks or so is just, it's too much. Less is more. And they shouldn't have had the Greatest Royal Rumble match. Instead, AJ should have fought somebody else and Nakamura should have interfered. You can have the Backlash match and then have that be the one where it's the 10 count or, the double DQ. They didn't need the SmackDown one. To be honest, I don't think they should have. I think it should have been something else. And then you have the final blow off. But Doug, you had mentioned before, Omega and Okada, 3 matches in 7-8 months,
And now they're finally going to go back to the 4th match, but it's a 2 out of 3 falls, and that's still in a couple months.
Mm-hmm. So you have build, you have hype.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think that we would have thought that any of us would have said, I'm done with this feud. But we are.
But we did know this feud was never going to be able to outshine what they wanted at the top of the card. Like we all said this. We said they're not going to get the chance to put that 5-star match on at Mania. And our only hope at the time was Backlash was supposed to be a SmackDown only pay-per-view. And once they swapped that, they had no chances to shine. Is it really that much of a surprise to any of you that it was booked the way it was booked? Because we know, I don't care what anyone says, we know what AJ and Nakamura are capable of. You give them 25 minutes. That Backlash match, take away that finish, was building up to something special. And then they just basically kicked the fans in the nuts. If they had let them continue to go, give them 5 to 10 more minutes, we could be like, oh, that was the match we wanted at Mania. Instead, we were just like, what was that crap? So it's not like the guys aren't talented. And Nakamura, for as stupid as that character has been doing a good job of being both funny and dastardly. He's more of a cartoony villain. But he's been good at it. It's just been, this has been booked like something. This has reminded me very much of the way they booked Daniel Bryan, where they just kept trying to cool his jets. We're going to do everything in our power to stop you from getting over. So we're going to squash you at Mania, and we're going to put you in a Team Hell No, and we're going to keep doing all these dumb things and hope that we can bury you down. And the fans just basically said no. And it almost seems like they're doing the same thing where they're like, look, we know you guys are good, but we're not going to let you Steamboat and Savage us because we've got our Hogan, and that's the main event that we want. And you will not overshadow this, and we will do whatever we need to do to keep you where we want you.
All right. So the next thing we need to talk about is the Money in the Bank match. I'm not sure, we have the men's and the women's, and apparently we're not going to have a tag team one, which, I'm disappointed by, but that's a different story. But we have in the men's, we have Rude, Bobby Roode, and then Braun Strowman, Balor, Owens, Rusev, Miz, New Day, someone from there, and then Joe or Brian. Now, the men's looks pretty good. Aaron, do you have a favorite just looking at this?
Well, I think that we need to ask somebody else that question. So, Nostradamus, if you could tell us who is winning this year's Money in the Bank.
Well, before I tell you the winner, I think we should get everybody else's prediction to see if I'm on board.
I think that Finn Balor should win it. I know that it's typically a heel that wins the Money in the Bank, but I really feel that if Finn won this, because he should have won the IC title, and maybe Rollins should be the one to win this, back, or I guess not back to back, but 2-time, just like Punk, I'd be okay with. But Balor would be my number 1. Miz would be my number 2.
I've given up on Balor being what I thought he was going to be. Like, it's kind of like, you know how for a while we kept thinking Sami Zayn was on the cusp of something great, and then we finally just at some point accepted that Sami Zayn's never really going to be pushed as the main guy. Look, Finn Balor wasn't even on Backlash. If you're one of the top guys, you should be on pretty much every pay-per-view unless you're hurt or there's a storyline for it, and he just was left off for no reason other than they had nothing for him. So to me, either he's about to be the next SmackDown heavyweight champion, a la he who should never have been champion, or they have nothing for him. So to me, I think it's Samoa Joe. I think he's the perfect type of guy to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase because it makes him extra dangerous. He doesn't need to have a storyline with it. He's a great talker. He's got a built-in feud with guys like AJ Styles and even Nakamura. They have history in NXT. It's something Joe acknowledged when his music hit and he squared up. So I'm going Joe. That's my pick. But of course, whatever Notras Douglas says is what my pick is. That becomes my instant favorite.
Andy, how about you?
I'm going to pick Daniel Bryan. That's it.
Ooh. And Doug, who's the winner?
The winner's Joe.
Yes. Okay.
This is, I mean, hands down, looking at like everything I was saying between the Monday Night Raw and not having a chance to cash in or anything like that, I just think that Joe has the momentum right now. He's coming back. He is strong. You had him put over Roman Reigns. His promos are still top notch. He's the good heel aspect. He is the heel that needs to win. And what better way to have him come up and just win his first title than be a Money in the Bank cash in? Joe can be a leader. Him versus AJ would still be a good feud in general. So you can have Joe win it, be a Money in the Bank, and then still continue with a great matchup against AJ Styles and going on. And he'll put on a great show for you. He can be the new face of SmackDown for a little bit before you bring back somebody else. But my pick is Joe at this time.
So the other thing is we have a women's Money in the Bank: Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Ember Moon, Lana, a couple others. With that lineup, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say Charlotte is going to win this. I actually think that, and my thought is she cashes in on Carmella, but she does it face to face. And so it's I mean, that's the way that a face would do it, like kind of like RVD, you set a time and everything like that. You don't just cheap shot them. So I'm going to say Charlotte. I think that'd be a good spot for her. Andy.
In a steel cage? I'm actually going to say Ember Moon. I believe that she'll win.
They haven't announced one spot from Raw, correct?
I think it's 2, but
okay, so there's still spots available essentially from Raw. Well, then, so my opinion, it has to be Raw for one reason. I don't think, and I said this before, and obviously they just went with a decisive finish, but I don't think Jax Rousey, they want a decisive finish. I think you can have somebody win from Raw and cash in. So I'm going Sasha Banks. I'm going to say she wins the Money in the Bank, and she cashes in the middle of Ronda and Nia and steals the title.
She did just resign too. Doug, and who's going to win this one?
This one I think is a little tougher in the aspect of it, and I'm gonna. This is a surprise, but I'm going with SmackDown also on this one. I say Becky Lynch. I think that's somebody that you've had down for a while now, and could use a boost to get herself back up into the main event scene. I'd love to see a kind of a Becky Lynch turn. I think it'd be great if Charlotte was going up there and Becky comes out of nowhere and hits Charlotte and then takes the briefcase for herself.
Interesting. So it looks like a couple of us are agreeing on Joe, and no one is agreeing on the women's match. This is going to be great. I can't wait till we do the show next month to find out if Doug was right. Doug picked Samoa Joe and Becky Lynch. So this will be fun. Doug, I really hope you win it again this year. All right, so let's thank a sponsor. HostGator, are you a blogger or podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable, HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click super installs with a free side hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo to see how easy it is, and if you use a special coupon code OFFTHEMARK, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out Section 86's Off the Mark page and click on the banner at the top to save big on items from WWEshop.com. All right, let's talk about Roman Reigns. The Roman Reigns issue. He first started out in FCW, then he went up to NXT, of course. He was then called up as a member of The Shield, but CM Punk has gone on record saying that he recommended Chris Hero, which I think is a big mistake, because I think Hero would have been huge if he would have gone there. I think that would have been a completely different thing, but oh well. And he was seen as a breakout star by WWE, but I think it's more because of who his relatives are. So, Aaron, do you think that Roman was actually... they just saw him like, oh, he's a star, opposed to someone else?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at somebody, it's the look, it's their promo, their wrestling ability, and obviously the other minor things, can they connect with fans, how much charisma they have, that sort of thing. But I mean, he has the look. No, I don't believe any of us are going to deny that when you look at him, you don't see superstar, you don't see world champion written on him because of his look, plain and simple. His promo, needs a lot of work. Wrestling ability needs some work too. I'm going to disagree with you though. I don't think that Chris Hero would have been a good choice for the Shield. And the reason why is because when you look at those three guys, Roman Reigns fits that. And I don't believe Chris Hero would have fit in that. I don't. I think that Chris Hero, while I like him and I think that he is incredibly talented and he could do wonders with WWE, I think that Roman Reigns was the right choice for that.
Are you serious? So you'd say his basically giving someone a quick elbow, and you're going to see that opposed to a spear? The elbow is more devastating because that's more realistic. A spear is more like you have to run, and Chris Hero can just come up and...
It's the look, though, Andy. It's the look. You look at those three together, I would say Roman Reigns. So the start off, I think that WWE, you can see where they're going, and I personally think that it's a good thing.
It was also the theme, too, to Aaron's point. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns were all young, they were hungry, and they were new. Chris Hero is not new. Yes, he was new to the WWE, but he was a CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, established indie star. If him and Cesaro had came up as a team, that's the perfect usage of him. Do the Kings of Wrestling. Or he's in a tag team, or he's a single star. But putting him in a Shield where they're doing the invasion type storyline where they're taking out the guys, he didn't fit that. Like he really didn't. The powerhouse made sense for Roman. And to be quite honest, you didn't need to protect Chris Hero. Chris Hero can go. Whereas in 6-man tags, you could protect a guy who really could only do things like hot tags and spears. So I agree with Aaron. Roman Reigns here made sense, and it worked at that point.
Yeah, at that point it was. It's got to be Roman Reigns. He fit the look of it too a lot better than Chris Hero. Every time I watch Chris Hero on NXT, I see the baby face of him. I have a hard time seeing him go heel. Whereas, because when they first came up, they were supposed to be helping CM Punk, and he was the heel at the time. So it was supposed to be the real heel nature of it, and the only time that Roman Reigns would be considered a heel, I guess. So I have no problem with Roman being called up as a part of a Shield. I think that was the best part for him to do, just because he could rely on Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins for their promos and everything. And all he had to do was say, believe that. And that's not too hard.
So you're saying that anyone could have gotten that position, just as long as they said, believe that, kind of intimidating.
That's amazing. So Shield runs roughshod for a little while. And then eventually they break up, and Rollins famously turns on Reigns, and then Ambrose and joins Triple H, and eventually wins the title. So after the breakup, Reigns he gets a massive singles push. He does a little bit of tag team with Ambrose, but for the most part, they focus on him. He had a huge win over Randy Orton just months after they had broke up. He came in second at the Royal Rumble in 2014. Because they didn't want to see Batista in there, and so fans were actually chanting for him. And then in 2015, he won it. Everyone was expecting this. This was kind of I guess he's going to win. Rock even comes out, puts his hand up, and the fans still crapped over that. there's a lot of fan outcry going into WrestleMania 31. So, Doug, with all that said, what are your thoughts on kind of Roman Reigns during this time?
Oh, I hated him. I thought it was horrible. I mean, suffering succotash and all.
That was
This was-
Doug.
Wasn't, I don't know.
Yeah, it was. No, it was. Yeah.
No,
That's what I
this
was
is
thinking.
before. This is before that, to my knowledge.
Was it?
I think Suffer and Succotash comes a little bit after that.
Either way. I mean, that was him growing into a promo, was to suffering succotash. So you're pushing a guy. I mean, The Rock got booed. What more do you need to show you that he is not the guy right now than The Rock being booed? But WWE continued to push him and shove him down our throats, and it became clear that this was the guy they were going to go for without any support from a majority of the fan base.
And Andy, the fans, of course, there was a lot of outcry. There was a change to WrestleMania 31 because of this, because of the fans absolutely hating Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and I think that of course, someone cashed in, of course, at 31, if I'm correct, and he made probably the best WrestleMania moment I've seen in a long time, and that's when Seth Rollins came in and cashed on him, because no one cared about that match. That match, everyone hated. I still remember watching that; it was so bad.
Whoa! The 31 match? The 31 match was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I just didn't care about it. I think it was more I didn't care because I knew Roman was going to win, so I didn't care about it. But just
If I'm remembering that match correctly, Brock basically beat the crap out of him. It's the birth of Suplex City. They had, I mean, I will say one of the best near fall finishes, and me and Aaron watched 31 together, when he hits like the triple Superman punch and he hits the double spear, and both of us went, oh crap, that's it. And he kicks out, and Lesnar kicked out at the perfect time, like 2.99, and we both went like that. So I'm not going to say that match was bad, because they did exactly what they needed to do, which is build up Brock Lesnar as a monster. They built up Reigns as an underdog. Lesnar bled like a stuck pig. Like, that match was not a bad match by any means. 34 was garbage. 31 was a well-done match. And if you go back and watch it, Brock Lesnar uses a significant amount of moves. It isn't just German suplex. It's capture suplex. It's belly-to-belly suplex. It's Saito suplexes. It's clotheslines. He unleashed. I mean, he hit some nasty clotheslines, some punches, some slaps. Like, he really busted out the stops to make Roman look like he was getting annihilated.
But going into it, I for some reason I just felt that it was going to be a bad match, and like thinking about, like, all right, yeah, he did do a lot more moves than just suplexes, but it was like, all right, we know that Roman's going to win. I think that's what bothered me the most about it, and that's why I just didn't care for the match. And then all of a sudden, Seth Rollins, cashes in at that moment, makes that a triple threat, and honestly, that's probably one of the best endings I've seen to a pay-per-view, and I just don't remember the last time I saw one that good. So I was really happy about that. And you would think that, WWE finally realizes, okay, Roman doesn't have it. And this is, in 31. Then what happens after that? It was just one of those things that fans, again, were pushing the fact that we don't want to see Roman, so they have to change it. But it was great for Seth Rollins because it made him the man he is today. Now, the one thing that did happen was that he continued to get pushed and pushed and pushed until he won the title at Survivor Series.
Hold on, Andy. Let's go back to this real quick before we move on, because I'm going to say this, to me, is where the mistake with Roman was made.
All right.
This is where I think we crossed the point of no return, because had they done this right, this would have been fine. Because if you look at when the Shield broke up, it was Rollins stabbing his brothers in the back. And for the most part, Ambrose was the one who was shown to take it personally. And him and Rollins had a fantastic feud. They feuded in the main event. I think it was Hell in a Cell. I think they got the main event, even though there was nothing on the line. And it was still a main event quality match. It had the weird Bray Wyatt interference at the end to set up Ambrose's next feud. But for the most part, Rollins and Ambrose went at it. Rollins became a megastar when he was in that triple threat with Cena and Lesnar. He proved that he was the next guy in line for the championship at some point. The problem is that Roman was not ready. It was very clear. I mean, I think we all remember how bad his promos were 3 years ago. Like, his promos aren't good now, and they were far worse back then. His wrestling isn't the greatest. Sometimes he can turn it up, but back then, to use Doug's phrase, it was clothesline city. He had no offensive arsenal that was really anything entertaining. His moves were telegraphed, and he had no business being in the 31 main event. You had a mega babyface in Dean Ambrose. That should have been Lesnar versus Ambrose, and Rollins is the one who stabs Ambrose in the back again. Ambrose probably should have been the one who won the Royal Rumble, because he was the one at one point. He wasn't Bryan like Stone Cold over, but he was over. He was getting the biggest pops of Raw. And instead, they tried to force Roman down everyone's throat, and that's where he went wrong. He should have been going for the IC Championship. He could have been the one to face Rusev at 31 and end the United States Championship reign. He could have really been doing anything else. It was the fact that he went from Shield breakup to no reason to be feuding with the Authority to randomly winning the Royal Rumble to against Brock. That's when they screwed this up. If they don't do that and they give him a year, like even John Cena, he got about a year with the United States Championship in that run before he ascended to the top. Stone Cold in the IC Championship reign, then he ascended to the top. Roman went from the breakup to the Rumble win. It was too quick. They gave him the Brock Lesnar push. That, to me, is where the mistake was made.
All right. But he kept getting pushed. Won the title again at, like I said, at Survivor Series 2015. He wins the title and loses it immediately to Sheamus. Why, Aaron?
Money in the Bank cash in.
Well, this only happens because Rollins gets hurt. That is the biggest point of this whole thing. Seth Rollins' knee gave out because this was supposed to be Rollins versus Reigns. And that, again, was the problem, is that he was going to beat Rollins. The feud was never between Rollins and Reigns. It was always Rollins and Ambrose. And instead of that, they just tried to shoehorn Roman back into the, now you're getting your revenge for your brother. No one wanted to see that. He's still getting booed. I don't know who Roman had been feuding with at this point in time, but he was not over. Like, he was still, I think, was he feuding with Bray Wyatt maybe at this point in time? This might have been where they had done that series of matches back and forth.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't had momentum. Whatever he was doing was not memorable. And he just got kind of jumped into the main event title picture.
He was feuding with whoever he beat in the first round of the tournament at Survivor Series. Because at the end, it was him versus Ambrose for the title.
Didn't he fight Del Rio?
I can't remember, and I was there.
I think Del Rio probably just no-showed, so who knows?
Fair point. Yeah, no, fair point. But again, is another example of Roman getting shoehorned into a title picture shot that no one really wanted to see, and then he wins the championship.
Wait, who said Del Rio, by the way? Because that was right.
It was me. I thought it was Del Rio. I thought him and Del Rio were feuding. And then he lost. And so what's interesting about that like month of him feuding with the League of Nations was one of the first times they booked Roman properly. They brought Vince McMahon back. They made Roman finally show a temper. He unleashed, I think it was at TLC, where he just grabbed a chair and started beating the absolute crap to the point where fans started cheering. I remember watching that going, oh, that's interesting. That is a side of Roman that I like. I like a violent, not cracking jokes, not I'm the silent guy. He just unleashed a furious, stone cold type beatdown where he took this chair and said, you know what, screw this. And he beat the crap out of Sheamus, and he beat the crap out of Rusev and Barrett, and was it Del Rio? I think he was the fourth member of that. He just unleashed hell. And then a couple weeks later, I think he won the title back from Sheamus. He had to overcome some couple things. They were booking him pretty well. Like, maybe they've turned the corner with Roman Reigns.
Do you think they should have had like maybe someone just write for him the entire time and maybe help out with the creative direction? Because for some reason, this feels like something that Vince was like, this is how we're going to have to do it, instead of like properly build him up to a certain point. Or if they said, hey, we need to give him a year, let's have him write for him and have him, help out with the booking of it. But to me, it seemed like this was like a week to week thing. They're like, all right, so it worked. All right. I'm liking Roman, so let's go ahead and push him. I guess
the rumor is that Vince was directly doing it. I don't know if that's true or not, but the rumor was that Vince McMahon was directly writing his promos. He was directly controlling his segments. He was micromanaging the entire. And if you really look at it, it has Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it, so it's not that surprising.
And if you think about it, they were trying to make him a sympathetic babyface. They were trying to make him a Daniel Bryan like character. By having him lose the title with the Money in the Bank cash in. Oh, he got screwed out of the title, and then right afterwards, they put all these odds against him, and he's able to overcome it and get the title from Sheamus. And then he, has to defend it at Royal Rumble, and he loses. He gets thrown out. I think second to last, if I'm correct. Ambrose and Triple H were the last two, and so we know there's going to be a winner, and he has to overcome that, and then he defeats Triple H out at the Royal Rumble, or I'm sorry, WrestleMania that we, unfortunately had to go to that one. And he still can't get him over because, he loses the title to Seth Rollins just a couple months later, and we find out it's due to a wellness violation.
Yes. And let's not skip at this point. Roman's the biggest heel in the company. Like he got the cheer that Hunter got for eliminating him. And this is the same Triple H who was the authority figure who had been screwing over Daniel Bryan for a full year, basically, got the loudest cheer of the night that didn't involve AJ Styles for tossing Roman. Dean Ambrose then gets a huge pop at Roadblock, I want to say, when he nearly beat Hunter in a fantastic match. And we don't need to describe what happened at 32, where we chanted for every NXT superstar and Triple H in spite of Roman Reigns. And then, I know what we're going to do. Let's put Roman Reigns up against that guy. You may have heard of him, AJ Styles. Let's put him up against him for 2 months. I wonder who the fans are going to cheer for, AJ Styles or Roman Reigns.
No, they're probably thinking AJ's going to turn heel. It's what Vince was like. It's like, of course, that indie guy's not going to do anything. Roman Reigns will be a big time face at this point. No, not AJ Styles.
But like Doug and Andy and Aaron, could you book Roman Reigns any worse than the 5 month span that they booked him from the Rumble to Money in the Bank and the wellness policy? Because to me, and I'm going to say this not as Roman's biggest defender, but I don't think he had a chance. I think they truly sabotaged him with terrible decision after terrible decision after terrible decision.
I think they were, and I agree with you in the fact that he had nowhere to go. Putting him up against AJ, that was a huge oversight on Vince McMahon's. And Vince even said it too, that he had, when AJ came on, he did not know how popular AJ Styles was and how great he is in ring and everything like that. I was at the Florida Royal Rumble when everything happened. I almost passed out because I was so elated when Triple H threw him out. But the crowd for AJ Styles and everything, I think even that shocked Vince McMahon and to a point where it was like one of those things. And like you said, I think this was Vince kind of showing off. Oh yeah, I'm going to put my WWE guy well over this indie darling, and the crowd's going to love it. And no one did. So yeah, set up for failure when they thought it was going to be a success. That was just bad booking, and then it just went downhill from there because once you get on that train aspect of, oh well, no, he'll do better next time, and then it's just like, no, I've already started the boo chants and everything else. It's just going to pile on at this point.
And so he gets busted for the wellness policy shortly after the AJ Styles matches, and they bring it up. they kind of have to, right? So Rollins, really talks crap on him. And then Rollins defeats Roman Reigns, Rollins defeated Roman Reigns right before there. Ambrose cashed in the Money in the Bank, so Ambrose is champion, and so those two have to carry the triple threat feud that is brewing for the next pay-per-view because Reigns isn't there. And then Reigns comes out to a symphony of boos. Other adjectives and nouns are thrown at him, which was kind of funny. So, but he's continued to be presented as the guy. I think we all expected this to be. Okay, they're going to humble him. They're going to push him down the card. And to WWE's credit, he lost the Universal title match to Finn Balor. Finn Balor actually won that match to take on Seth Rollins at the SummerSlam, or the Summerfest, as Jeremy Piven would say. So they kind of humbled him a little bit, but he still was presented as the guy for quite a while. And so much so that at Royal Rumble 2017, again, one of the final guys, I think every year he's been in the Royal Rumble now, he's in the final four, I want to say. But he was one of the final guys there, and he throws Taker out, which led to an Undertaker versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33. He defeats him. So a lot to unpack there, Andy. Roman Reigns defeats Undertaker at WrestleMania 33. Good or
What the
bad?
heck? Seriously? Yeah, if they're going to say, okay, so Undertaker's done, he's never coming back. Okay, in a way, I'd be okay with it. But then Taker comes back the following year. So what did that win really do? Besides him saying, this is my yard. Well, it was Undertaker's yard at one point. Then I can't remember the guy in WCW. It was his yard for a little bit. I don't know if it was Tyson Tomko or might have done it at some point too. Sean Stasiak. I don't know. It's one of those guys. But that's
Property values are very high, so they were really just feuding over real estate.
yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, come on, like that made no sense.
And Andy, was it a match for a championship?
No, it was for nothing.
But
that was
it the final match of the card?
Well, yeah.
Because usually WrestleMania, you main event with a championship or a streak or something. Or did we just put random Roman Reigns match in the main event of WrestleMania because it's Roman Reigns?
It's because it's Roman Reigns. That's the problem. It's Vince is like, man, that guy's a big guy. I bet, he's a good guy, so I'm gonna have to put him in there. I'm sorry, but like, they did a great job with Braun Strowman, and then they cooled him down all of a sudden, which doesn't make sense to me. But we were talking like, oh, Braun only does this or this, but then they did it properly, and they could have done Roman properly to do, get to this point where he faces Undertaker, but I don't think they did. The entire time that match was on, I think we all know, we're like, yep, it's happening. The only surprise was that then he left his, hat and boots in the ring. That was it. That was the most surprising thing that happened. And because everyone knew that was going to happen, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some type of video of people walking out at some point. Because, of course, they would be mad now because they missed him, retiring, quotes. But still, they just did that completely wrong. It's like, hey, we're going to do this. What do you think, Taker? Should this happen? He was probably like, no. And they're probably like, we'll give you a year's salary to wrestle once. Okay. That's pretty much
The other thing.
Oh, sorry, Aaron.
I was going to say
what would you rate this match?
What's that?
All three of you. What would you rate Taker versus Reigns?
The actual match?
Yeah.
1?
I'd say 1 star. Because there were some spots in there. But
Taker's
1
in
star.
I'm going to give it 1 star because I have to at least give it a star in order to write a review. Was it the Yelp?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Minus
idea.
I'd give it
5
0.
stars.
Now, the other thing, too, is that for all 2017, Roman had defeated Strowman previous to WrestleMania. He did end up losing to Strowman a couple of times, though. But he also defeated Samoa Joe. Or I'm sorry, no, was that 2017 or 2018? Either way.
2018, I think.
Well, 2018, then he defeated Samoa Joe. At the end of 2017, he defeats John Cena, and Cena raises his hand. So you have all of these people who are trying to help put him over. And I don't know if it helped. I personally don't think it did. But moving on to kind of the big thing was he gets tossed out at the Royal Rumble, which was good by Nakamura. But then he wins the Elimination Chamber by defeating Braun Strowman after Strowman defeats 5 other guys. And he's taking on Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. And as everybody predicted, I would have put $1,000 down on this match, but Roman Reigns loses. And that was a huge surprise. And you can listen to our WrestleMania post show to know all of our thoughts on that. But then at the Greatest Royal Rumble, again, he loses. And so, to kind of move on from the Lesnar thing, I mean, what is next for Roman Reigns? Andy, what do you do with Roman Reigns at this point? He is presented as a face. He's defeating pretty much everybody but Brock Lesnar. That's kind of the only person that he really can't defeat. Or I guess Seth Rollins too, right? So, he really can't defeat Brock Lesnar, though. So what do you do with him from here?
Well, I did hear that TNA is hiring. You should just go there. There's nothing. I think at this point, you have to turn him heel. And you have to make him just a jerk heel. And to a certain extent, I don't want to put Paul Heyman there, but you need someone with a mouth. Someone who's just a talker that could talk for Roman. And as much as I don't want to say this, and it may help him, is if you put Enzo as his guy. Which I can't believe I said that, but you need someone who can just talk. And that might be the only person I can think of. I mean, maybe you guys have better thoughts, but He needs a mouthpiece.
Doug, if you had to book Reigns and you have to book him as a face, Vince is saying, look, I'll give you $5 million. You have to book him as a face. How do you book him as a face?
I think some of his best promo work has always been that Monday after WrestleMania, when he came out, he went to go talk on the mic and the crowd just boos him silent. He does that a couple times, fakes out the crowd whether or not he's going to speak, but then he just says one line and then leaves. That's how you book him. That was an amazing promo for him in the aspect that he taunted the crowd by looking like he was going to speak, but then he just says his one little piece and gone. That's how I'm booking him. Do not have this guy talk. Like Roger said, the best time that he is out there is when he's out there being just a monster, just dominating over people, because he has that look of a dominating physique. He doesn't need to talk. I don't need him to talk. He just needs to come out there. I'm the best. Prove that I'm the best. And then just, that's it. I don't need to go out there. I don't need to make friends with anybody. I don't need to impress anybody. I'm not out there to impress anybody, but I'm out here. I'm going to win because I am the best. That's it. He can be a face. People will start cheering that. It's kind of the heel aspect, but at the same time, he can take on the heels and just be like, nope, I'm going to beat you, and then go out and do it.
Roger, I was going to ask you, with John Cena, they've missed the boat. You can't turn John Cena heel. It's pointless at this point in time. Roman Reigns, though, he's very young in his career. Theoretically, you could turn him heel. Have they missed the boat, or is it so far gone that if they turn him heel, it's not that big of a deal?
It would be a big deal in the sense of, for the first time, really, and I mean, maybe since they listened to Die Rocky Die, it would be them realizing that the guy that we established as our guy didn't work out. And I'm going to say this. I'm not Roman's biggest fan. I'm usually one of his biggest detractors, but he is a victim of both bad booking and unfortunate circumstance a lot. I mean, the revolt against Roman in 2015 wasn't purely about Roman. It was more or less what Roman represented, which is, once again, you've chosen someone over Daniel Bryan. Because we booed Batista and we loved heel Batista. So when it became that Daniel Bryan came back and you decided to go with Roman and you unceremoniously threw out Daniel Bryan at like 15, we were booing whoever you were going to pick. I mean, Rey Mysterio, we still like, and he got booed at 30. You know, it was just so much of this. We were finally done with that crap. So that, you know, that's like strike one against Roman. And then you have this, you know, Seth Rollins outshined him in every aspect. He was a better heel. He was a better wrestler. He became a bigger star. Dean Ambrose became the more sympathetic babyface because he kept losing. He became the guy that they kept wanting Roman to somehow be, because Ambrose actually had to fight the odds. He lost. He was sympathetic. He would get his head stomped in. He would have to leave. He was the guy when he finally won. It was like, oh my God, Ambrose is finally champion. When Roman won, it was kind of like, meh, oh look, Reigns finally got the championship. So I don't necessarily think that you've missed the boat with the Roman heel turn, but I think what you've run into is now that, like, with the rise of Braun Strowman, who, in my opinion, is the most over guy in the main event scene on Raw right now. Like, whatever Braun does gets pops, whether it's shoulder blocking Elias out of nowhere or power slamming people or flipping trucks or whatever. He is the guy who should probably be the face of the company in the main event scene. And Seth Rollins has probably surpassed Roman Reigns because he's just putting on classics. A Roman heel turn is the best move. Now, I've given up thinking that he's probably going to go heel because I spent 10 years thinking Cena was going to go heel. But if you really, really want to give Roman the best opportunity finally to be the guy, you need to turn him heel. At the very least, turn him into a tweener. Let him be the guy who, instead of you having this, oh, look, the fans are just booing who they normally cheer and cheer who they normally boo, have the crowd, have them acknowledge, hey, crowd hates Roman, and have Roman hate the crowd. He can still be the guy who fights against Jinder Mahal, but he can also fight against a Seth Rollins and say, you know what, screw you. I'm in it for Roman Reigns. I'm not in it for you guys. I don't need to be the cookie cutter Cena. I'm just going to be a guy who comes out, spears, wins, and leaves. like Doug said, less talking, more hard hitting, and be done with it. Stop this Vince's boy crap.
And Andy, do you think WWE is being tone deaf? Are they stubborn, ignorant, arrogant? What do you think the reason is they haven't turned him heel?
Well, I want to first say that everyone likes Roman Reigns backstage. He seems like he's a really nice person backstage, but the character, WWE creates the character. They are just stubborn because they believe that he is the face that's going to basically make them for the next 5 years, when that's not the case. If you look at other organizations, looks at NJPW. Look at them. They have someone different. It feels like every other year there's someone new. The AJ Styles, one point. You have Okada. You have gosh, I can't think of his name. Omega. Thank you. You have Omega. You have guys who are. It's not every year that they're still that way. But Vince is dead set that he's very stubborn about this. He believes that nope, the fans don't care. It's all about him because he's a big guy. He wears a bulletproof vest, so because he's so good or whatever. But I think that they just need to finally just realize, hey, the fans don't care. The fans, it's not like we boo like a John Cena boo. It's we boo because no, we don't want him. And I think that's what really makes WWE being stubborn about this whole situation.
Andy, do you think this is like the old John Cena boos from like the We Seen Enough era, the 06, 07, 08, and maybe 09 Cena, where it wasn't, hey, we want to see you get beat. It was, we want you to go away. Get out of the main event scene. Stop hogging it. Stop beating everybody under the sun. Stop making Kurt Angle tap out and let somebody else shine.
I don't believe so. I think that Cena, we didn't like Cena, but there was times where he could actually put on a match. And yeah, he was forced down our throats, but even now we're like, all right, we do respect him. But it seems like Roman, they're like, all right, you're not gonna get the IC, you're not gonna get the US. We're just take you straight to the main event, even though you haven't proven yourself, and even though you have 3 moves. I mean, that's pretty much. I guess that's my thought process on it. Cena, we used to give him a lot of crap, but at least he took steps to make him better. And then you start hearing stuff he does outside of the ring as well, and I think that helped out maybe my thought process on it. But Cena's fine. Like when he's not there, I kind of like, oh, I want to boo him. But like Roman, it's not like it's not like if he's not there, it's like I'm glad he's not there. It's like when Cena wasn't there, you're like, oh, I wanted to boo Cena. I wish he was here. I guess that's how I look at it.
Although, to be fair with Cena, he also didn't have I don't feel a meteoric rise to the top. I feel like Cena, it was very gradual. And when he won, I think that people were happy. I mean, yeah, it was JBL he took the title from, so there's that. But I feel like John Cena was a little more, oh, good, he's going to get it, versus, crap, Roman's going to get it sort of mentality. And Cena stayed on top for, I think, way too long. They did a lot with his character. Roman Reigns' character, though, I feel that they're not that far gone, but they are close. I feel like there's a tipping point, and they're getting dangerously close to it. And unless they do something with him sooner rather than later, I don't know what's going to happen, because I don't know his trajectory over the next 6 months or the next year. I don't know if they're going to put the title on him. I don't know what they're doing with him. But either way, I think that WWE is making a huge, huge mistake.
I think one of the interesting things that I did hear about Roman Reigns and his background in training and everything is, you look at his family, relatives, and everything like that, they were the Wild Samoans. They trained their kin, I guess, for word for it, to be heels. Everybody is trained to be a heel, actually. That's why The Rock came back and was great as a heel. He was trained to be a heel. Roman was probably trained to be a heel, and when they got him here, they're like, no, let's make you a babyface. And he's like, okay. And it's still not working out. I think WWE is going to be stubborn about it and keep him going. And to a sense, I kind of agree with their aspect of it, because would we be talking about Roman Reigns like this if they weren't? Overall, he's being talked about whether it's because WWE is messing up his push or anything like that. One of our favorite things is to boo on Roman Reigns, but at least we're talking about him.
Well, so would we be talking about him if everything was done right? Yeah, I mean, we talk about Braun Strowman, though. I think we all agree that Braun Strowman was done right. When Daniel Bryan was finally done right, we talk about him. When AJ Styles is done right, we talk about him. So I think had Roman been done right, to Aaron's point about John Cena, he didn't have a meteoric rise. He gradually rose through the ranks. So when he got his coronation, it felt right and it felt ready. And also, there was a fantastic circumstance for him to ascend to the top. There was no Daniel Bryan that he needed to hold down. There was no meteoric guy on the way up that the WWE was pushing down back in 2005. And Brock Lesnar had just left. So you had a vacancy at the top. You needed a young, new talent. And at 21, he beat a guy that we all despised in JBL. It was the perfect scenario for Cena to ascend. Now, after that is when we started to go, good Lord, like what is going on right now? But at the time, it was a fantastic series of events, whereas Roman, 10 years later, unfortunately, was a victim of, and I said earlier, very bad circumstances and very bad booking. And now he's in a position where you're like, I have no idea where he goes from here. They can't do Roman Lesnar again. Like, please, I don't want to see that match again. And until that championship comes off of him, what does he honestly do? Jinder Mahal is getting cheered. I never thought I would hear the day where Jinder Mahal is getting, and I've said in personal my piece on Jinder, I like Roman more than I like Jinder. But in Montreal, Jinder got cheered. And in London, Jinder got cheered. Have you ever heard cheers for Jinder Mahal when Roman Reigns isn't involved? Honestly?
That is true. I mean, if they despise Roman that much that they're like, you know what? We're going to cheer for Jinder just to prove our point. I mean, that's what it's got to, at least. To this point, that's what it's gotten to. They should just realize that, hey, Rocky came out as a face and then no one liked him as the face. They're like, you know what? Let's turn him heel. It was like a light switch. What, like 4 or 5 months later, they turn him heel, and then he becomes the one of the biggest wrestlers in the company ever. And that should say something. Do the same thing for Reigns. You've been messing around with this for 4 years now. Why don't you just say, let's turn him heel? And the funny part is, if they turn him heel, they'll say, oh, it was the master plan from all those years ago. No, it's not. It's not going to be the master plan. Take all the credit.
Just like to have, say, Daniel Bryan, the master plan, which is like BS. Like even Daniel Bryan has come out and admit they didn't have some grandiose plan about him being the main event of 30 and there was going to be this yes movement. They were trying to cool his jets and they were all in on Batista and the fans revolted. But much like Stephanie inventing women's wrestling and being part of the women's revolution, they've just created this silly narrative that the plan was Daniel Bryan all along. If they turn Roman, they're going to definitely take credit and be like, oh, we knew the fans would reject him and this was a long-term booking plan and, all that other BS.
I don't know. But, that's Roman Reigns. That's all we really can say about that. But that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you can follow the show at AllTheMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast. And I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Hunt, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes. And until next time, see you in the ring.